The shadow of death has lain across Acapulco for years. The former tourist hotspot has one of the highest murder rates in the world. And behind the military patrols, police sirens and daily crime scenes live a townspeople struggling with fear and grief. Last year, Francisco's wife was caught in the midst of a gang shootout and killed. Now he's raising their 4 children alone. We hid his identity. Speaking out here is dangerous.
Extraño mucho a mi esposa. Me he dado cuenta que me llega el dolor, la tristeza, pero yo mismo me animo.
A decade and more than 120,000 victims into the drug war, there's still no federal program dedicated to psychological support for the families left behind. In Acapulco, an NGO, Doctors Without Borders, is filling that gap. Their team of community workers and psychologists go to churches, community centres, basketball courts, anywhere people gather to train them to support each other.
The violence gets to such a level that the social fabric is destroyed. People don't trust their neighbours, and little by little things deteriorate.
Those suffering particularly painful experiences, like Francisco, can meet one-on-one with psychologists. Doctors Without Borders are also training teachers to recognise children traumatised by violence or sexual abuse. The aim is to convince the government that programs like this are needed on a national scale. Mexico's put huge amounts of money and manpower into combating organised crime. In comparison, very little has been dedicated to treating traumatised victims. And according to psychologists, that shows a real lack of foresight, because those affected by violence, if not attended to, are much more likely to repeat the cycle. That's the worst nightmare of parents like Francisco trying to protect the next generation.
Las vidas de esas personas no tienden pues a dar resultados buenos, no positivos, no. Puede hacer que los niños.
Experts say it could take decades for the wounds of a society grown used to violence to heal. The worry is that without intervention, that process will struggle to even begin. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Acapulco.
Police and military forces are holding a routine checkpoint in Cancun in response to a homicide rate that has risen 300% in the last 14 months. This driver was detained after officers found a half-dozen mobile phones and a handgun in his vehicle. But even with the cooperation of military, state, and local police, law enforcement agencies are struggling to fight crime.
Most homicides are related to organized crime. They are committed by criminal groups competing for control over other criminal groups. All of it is related to the sale of drugs.
We rode along with a division of federal police officers patrolling a popular beach. Mexico's peak tourism season is fast approaching, and the government is dispatching some 5,000 federal agents across the country. For tourists looking for white sand and turquoise waters, however, the violence seems far away.
I feel very safe. I walked around late yesterday and it was very calm.
I haven't noticed a lot of bad things happening or anything. No.
Cancun draws in billions of dollars from tourism every year. Once the sun sets, bars and nightclubs are packed with partygoers. But just a short drive away, there is another, more dangerous side to the city.
We're in a residential neighborhood near the center of town, and police have blocked off this road behind me after a shooting took place only about 1 hour ago. Police tell us that 2 people were shot and the gunmen fled. Sadly, this is a scene that plays out on a near daily basis here in Cancun.
The district attorney says there are 1 to 2 murders on average every day. Civil society groups argue that the recent increase in police hasn't served everyone equally.
The decisions of federal government are to protect the hotel industry. But what about the ones that work in that industry and then return to the areas where crime and violence prevails?
Walking along the hotel district, the 2 sides of the city become apparent. A nightly patrol by federal police makes foreign tourists feel safe, but it also keeps the nearby violence out of sight and out of mind. Manuel Rapalo, Al Jazeera, Cancun, Mexico.